This conference will now be recorded.
All right, everybody. It is 7:02 p.m. on, it's I believe
16th.
Wednesday, June 16th.
June 16th.
Wednesday, June 16th. Thank you. I'm Elizabeth Geiger, Chairman of the Architectural Review Board. On our call tonight for the Architectural Review Board, I have Allison Hughes, John Brown, Marion Castell, Leslie McAlay, David Humphrey, and Sherry Green. Sherry will also be taking notes tonight and might interrupt now and again to get some spelling of names and addresses and such. All right. I'm going to actually make one announcement before we start with the actual applications, and this is to the applicants, but also to ARB members, just so you guys know I'm aware of this. It's come to my realization lately that a lot of applications haven't been filled out completely, and in the case tonight, we've received a few different applications where we actually don't have a single application tied to the proposal. Moving forward, I will set the precedent that we are not going to accept or speak about any proposals that do not have an application attached to them and they're not filled out completely. Otherwise, it makes our job very difficult. Any questions there? All right. My last reminder here is when you are speaking tonight, every time you speak, say your name and who you're part of, whether it's the Architectural Review Board or it's what your role is and what the application is, so we're all very clear. Starting off, we have ARB number 9 from 2019. This is the Mather Homestead at Stephen Mather Road. Again, we do not have an application for this, which is a problem tonight. So for those doing the proposal, if you could say who you are and spell your name, since we cannot see it on our agenda here, and then give us a quick overview on what you're looking to do. Thanks.
Okay, my name is Stephen Keedle, Keedle. I'm the architect at 49 Beardsley Parkway in Trumbull, Connecticut. We're here to present on behalf of the Mather Homestead amendment to a previous application to look for approval for a naming sign that is above the eastern side door. And in a previous approval, we had a lantern type fixture above the door that was centered. We're also proposing to move the location of that light to the right-hand side of the eastern door. And that lantern will match the lantern that is on the south-facing side. The signage itself is, I think it's 94 inches by 25.5 inch thick. The letter size is 6.5 inches, and the I'm just going to look for the sign here. 1 second, please. The sign will read the Elizabeth W. Chilton Education Center. It is a naming sign in honor of Elizabeth Chilton, from one of the donors of the building. Again, the letter size is 6.5 inches. It's a Times Roman font, 25 inches high, 96 wide, length, 1/2 inch thick. It's a black PVC material, white exterior grade vinyl graphics. Is mounted to the barn wall, top and bottom, with L brackets that are also painted black. I think that covers it. And I apologize that I'm not in video conference, but hopefully within the application materials that you received, there is a drawing. I think it is, let me see, where is it?
Yep, we've got it, Steve. We have all the drawings, and we have the sign on the building as well. So
that's great. So that covers the presentation. Paul Salotto, who is the builder, is also with us on the phone. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. So I'm going to go through one ARB member at a time and let them comment one at a time. We're going to start off tonight with Allison Hughes, and after Allison will be Sean Brown. Allison, are you ready to go?
Yep, Allison Hughes. I think it looks very nice. I think the barn looks great, and it certainly is beautiful up there this time of year. I drove by the other day, and it really looks very nice. So I approve.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
John Brown?
Hey Liz, this is Sean Brown. Do we have any restrictions on the height of the sign, regarding the total height versus the 6.5-inch letter height?
There is, okay, so Dave can hop in on this, but part of this, this project in general, we've made special exceptions for because it's, a historic, it's a museum and historic place. And in particular, if you're being technical, this is a description sign. So part of our signage guidelines, we wouldn't be even allowed to let a description sign even go up. But in this case, because of, we've already made exceptions for the Mather Homestead because of what they represent to Darien's community. So as far as signage allotment, this is within their signage allotment of the building as a whole. But then the content of it is not something that is technically allowed. So.
I have no other questions. It looks great to me.
After Sean Brown, we have Marion Castell and then Leslie. Marion?
Marion Castell. I noticed that the lamp has only 2 bulbs in it, which is at the side of the door, and I'm concerned that's not going to be enough light. It was over the top first, but now that it's on the side, I'd like to know what wattage those little 2 bulbs are to give light stepping in at night.
So each bulb is approximately 60, the equivalent of 65 watts. Obviously, they're LEDs. There's also a floodlight, Marion, in the upper corner as well,
Okay.
to light up the entire area. And I believe it's the same amount of bulbs that would have been in the other light. So there's an emergency light, there's this light with the 2 bulbs, and there's a floodlight that will be on during events and whatnot.
That's good. That answers the question.
And that was more of a,
I find that the sign.
yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt that.
No, I was just going
Oh, go
on to
ahead.
my next point. It has to do with the sign. I think that it's somehow or other, it's too invasive. It doesn't blend with the building. And I don't know that you need to have such a harsh, either the lettering or the black is too dark. To me, it just takes over the barn too much. With it, and
That's great, Marion.
I think that's about all. I'm trying to think of what to say about how to deal with it.
Well,
Because
let me
you have
take
a
that
lot
thought.
of
Let's see.
lettering, so you have to have a big sign, and so I don't know how to do that except,
Marion, let me hold, I think that's a good starting comment. Let me keep going down to the other members and see if they have a comment, and I can circle back to you if you have some ideas after hearing the other 2 talk.
putting more space around the lettering might help. Or reducing the size of the lettering. Okay.
This is Stephen Keatle, if I may just address the size of the lettering. The size of the lettering is 6.5 inches. Given the size of the building, 6.5 inches, I think, is proportioned correctly. We would like it to be visible, obviously, but I think 6.5 inches, which is, again, on the size of that building, I think anything smaller may be wanted to be legible, but also obviously not as, in your face, I guess would be the right way to put it. But go ahead, please.
Well, proportionately, I don't see that it's 6.5 inches the way it's placed in your drawing. I mean, it's on the drawing, but I'm looking at the photograph. And if the letterings are 6.5 inches, it's almost a quarter of the whole space between the top of the doors and the.
No, well, this is Stephen again, Stephen Keatle. The overall sign is 25 inches, and we have 2 lines of lettering at 6.5 inches, so 13 inches. So the 25 inches gives it a little bit of space at the top and the bottom and in between. And the overall length is it lines up with the casing of the door below. Again, we tried to proportion it in a way that was, somewhere where it wasn't overly sized, but at the same time still legible. I think that's the extent of my comment, I think, on that.
Well, maybe the sign isn't put right. Maybe it's smaller in actuality than way it shows on the picture.
Yeah, this is Liz Geiger here, Chairman. I'll step in. Yeah, it does the way the proportions do look. I mean, let's keep opening this down the road because I see what you're talking about, Marion, and there might be other comments here. The portions don't look like they add up almost in between letters. You're talking about 13 inches of lettering, but then that's another, what is it? Another 12 inches that were unaccounted for there that you're not really seeing. It's hard to tell from the proposal given here where those inches are made up.
Right.
You only have these limited drawings. Let me go down to Leslie and then David Humphrey. Leslie, do you want to comment on this or anything else?
I do. Just going off what Marion said, what if you made, Leslie McCauley, what if you exchanged the black background for a red that matches the barn and made the lettering in black? That's
Like
it.
that.
Steve, do you want to comment? This is Paul Salato. I like the black in that there's other black on the outside of the building. And so typically a sign would be a color against a backdrop. I mean, just my personal opinion.
David Humphrey, I'm going to keep going down the list. I might circle back to some of you other guys, members of the board, see their opinions here. David.
Yeah, David Humphrey here. I kind of second a couple of the recent comments. The black feels very heavy to me, especially over the front door. I think a different color could be explored. There aren't too many options with the color palette here, but the size, due to the size of the signage, that black panel feels very heavy. I'm not sure why PVC was selected and what it's supposed to be an authentic barn that doesn't really jive with that aesthetic, having it be a PVC panel versus what would have been a wood panel. And then there's something off with the proportion, because if you just look at 25 inches high, if you split that in half, you got 12 and a half.
Yeah.
Only at a 6.5 inch letter height, half of the upper half or lower half of the sign would be lettering, and it shows as much larger than that in the rendering.
Right.
So potentially the size of the lettering were being thrown off by the rendering. Maybe in reality 6.5 inches is okay. But I'm looking at the photo rendering, the file that was called sign on photo of the building. And that, to me, the lettering looks large.
This is Paul Salato. If you look at the document that was submitted from Signorama, keep in mind the capitals are 6 inches. And I think what might be throwing you off is there's a white border line. So basically you have 4 inches approximately on top of the capital E in Elizabeth and approximately 4 inches below the E in education and approximately 4 inches in between the letters, which would give you 12 plus those signs. So I do believe that the diagram from Signorama is correct proportionally. It's supposed to be, and I can confirm that with them. When it went on the building, the image that you have of the building, things might have changed a bit, although I don't know how, because Steve used this exact one, but I think for at least the view of it, if you use the document in front of you from Signorama, that is supposed to be proportional.
This is Stephen Keatle. I do think it may be the white border that is going around it that throws off the proportions of those letters. Again, there isn't a dimension on those letters on the drawing, but that's the only rationale I can think of why it seems to be thrown off. Again, relative to the material question, the question is really one of durability and being able to sustain this for a while there have been some painted wood signs that, again, they may weather. We are looking for something that is durable and is really as low maintenance as possible. So that's really why we went with black PVC. material, again, for something being 25 inches high, would probably end up being a couple of or 3 pieces of wood perhaps to paint that sign. So I don't know if Paul, you'd like to add to that relative to the material.
Yes, Paul Salato. So when we went over this with the sign company, we had actually looked at using some of the salvaged boards from the building, from the old building. But it was decided amongst the Mather board and the sign company and myself that just over time that just wouldn't hold up. There was also a cost involved with going with that sign. We really would have to then go with a custom metal letter for each letter. You know, you've seen them on pegs where they're raised on pegs. So there was a cost aspect to it, and then there was a maintenance aspect to it. And the black is a matte black. It's not a shiny black. So that was one thing we were conscious to make sure it wasn't this gloss black. But again, primarily it was durability over time.
Paul, Stephen Keatle, actually, may I ask you a question, Paul? The black and the white does seem to fit in terms of being able to have this legible. And again, I'm making the presentation, Paul. Were there other colors talked about, or was it was that any part of any discussion, Paul?
We did. We looked at gray letters. Paul Salato again speaking. We looked at gray letters. We looked at black letters on a gray background. Again, it didn't, after multiple meetings at the site, it didn't seem to go. The color palette on the building is really red and black. We did consider the red sign. It just seemed to wash out. And the white letters on the black just seemed a little more contemporary to us. And the black seemed a little more historic in just that it was a simple color. And also, just to finish, going again, we in the end we preferred the PVC. The black, if we went with a color, we would never get a red to match the red on the building, which would mean we'd have to paint the PVC, which we did not want to have to do.
Okay. Sherry, do you want to hop in?
Yes, hi, Sherry Green. I like the way the sign looks. I understand all the reasons for the choices made. I had a peculiar reaction to this. This is my old neighborhood. I lived just a block away from this, and I walked by the Mather estate every day. It felt, when I first looked at this, I thought, is this going to feel to the neighbors like a commercial project or a commercial spot? I don't have any answers to my questions. I'm just throwing this out. I know that it will be seen from the road, so I don't know how many feet back that is from the road on the east side. That was just my first reaction. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. And maybe it's because it seemed very bold, but it also has to be seen from the road. So I'm just throwing that out there. That was my reaction, that it just felt, for a neighborhood, it felt invasive. I don't know what we do about that.
All right, Liz Geiger here. Let me summarize this up to keep moving here, Paul and Steve. I think there's a couple of, there's one kind of trending comment going through here, which is the heaviness of the sign. We got to figure out a way to kind of lighten that up, whether it's size or just, replacing the black with another color, swapping out something, a white sign, black letters. I can open up to the rest of the board and see if there's other ideas here, but the sense I'm getting is the sign is heavy, and the sign is going to be visible from the road. It's a descriptive sign, which we don't normally allow in the first place. So we got to figure out a way to kind of mat this down, understanding that it is an important finishing touch to this building for you guys.
Liz?
Yes.
Excuse me, Allison Hughes. But why is not a blade sign being considered here? I mean,
Stephen Keatle, could you repeat that, please? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that, please.
I said, what could you consider using a blade sign here, a hanging blade sign?
Paul Salato, no, we did not. There's no real overhang. on the building. So we just, in our opinion, thought something against the building would be better. And if I can just ask one other question as we're going through this, because there were two elements to this, the sign and the light. So it sounds like everyone's okay with the light and it's really the sign. Am I correct in that?
Yep, Liz Geiger here. I'm gonna step in. I think I haven't, unless board member wants to raise their hand that I can see. I think that the relocation of the light makes good sense. I understand your location for the sign. I think we all do. You guys want to see it. I think you really want to pay tribute to this woman who's made a large contribution here. But it comes down to, I think, the massing of this sign. It is a huge, it's 96 inches long, 25 inches high. Even though the letters are small, it's reading heavy. So.
If I can, Paul Salato, if I can just ask the question, and I can talk to the sign company, if the sign were the same color of the building, would that be palatable to everyone? And I'm not sure it's possible, but I can look into it.
Member Sean, Marion, David Humphrey.
Yeah, I think that would help. I think that would help make it feel, less heavy, for lack of a better term.
Say your name, David, for everybody.
Right, David Humphrey. Yeah, I still think if you guys can take one more look at material, I just it doesn't feel like it fits on this building to have a PVC sign. But I mean, I get cost and maintenance. It just seems a little out of place, and I think that's part of the reason why it might be looked at as something more commercial, just because of the nature of that PV sign is something that's more commercial. Something in wood, something that might be a little bit more subtle, I think would be looked at as a little bit more authentic to what it is, which is this is a historic building that's being turned into an education center with a tribute to somebody.
Marion Castell, I think that remember it's on our photograph, it's a gloss, and you have to remember it's not gloss in reality. I think the problem, to my mind, is that it's crowding the back field is being crowded with so much large lettering. And I don't know whether you could, and if you did make it the color of the barn, you're going to have a much more dominant border, I think, to separate it. You'd have to widen that white border quite a bit. But there's a lot of letters all jammed together. That's kind of and it's in a small space. Maybe have
what are you proposing, What are you proposing, Marion?
Well, I'm thinking what bothers me is that there's so many letters in a very small space. It's really almost hard to, I don't know whether you could have something about the education center in another sign and Elizabeth Chilton in one sign, but cramming them all in there, it looks very crowded to me. And that creates heaviness, some of it.
Well, this is Stephen Keetle. Unfortunately, the naming of the sign is the naming sign. So the Elizabeth W. Chilton Education Center. So unfortunately, that's sort of the name of the building that the donor would like to honor his mother with. And so it may be not so much the number of letters as it is maybe the field or the color of the field. The font, again, I think the font is very classic. That it's Times Roman font.
Could you guys look into, sorry, Elizabeth Geiger here, Stephen, just to keep things moving, not to cut you off. Could you guys possibly come back to us and show us an iteration where it's a red sign with black or white lettering and or a white sign with black and or red lettering? Maybe, so that would take off the table any reduction of sign, of massing, of the overall, the sign heights and stuff can stay the same. We could just look at an alternate color scheme maybe.
Okay.
Sherry Green, can I just weigh in with one idea? What if you use some sort of a bronze color that would pull in the color of the lantern and soften the letters? Or would maybe that makes it unreadable? I don't know, but on a red background with bronze letters?
I like that. I don't know how you do it though.
I'm sorry, so Sherry, you're proposing a red sign, but with bronze letters though on?
The color of the lantern, what I have here in my packet is kind of the bronze color. I can't pull it up right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it just it would soften it. It would mute, I just think it would make it a little more mute. Maybe that defeats the purpose of it, but I think it would be softer and still be classy and correct for the building.
So Paul Salato speaking, just to clarify in that picture of the light, the lights are copper. That picture might look brown, but if you went to the building, they look more of a traditional copper color lantern.
All right, I wasn't directly.
Yeah, I'm just not sure the copper would look, but
do a lighter version of that. Soft
certainly
copper.
we can. Yes, again, Paul Salato speaking. So Elizabeth, if you tell us the procedure again, I think if we can keep the size and play around with some colors that might be more palatable to the board, we can give that a try. That's fairly easy.
Yeah, Liz Geiger here speaking again. Yeah, I know we've kind of gone through a lot of stuff with you guys, and you guys have done a great job showing us even the first proposal of this barn. And it's not that we're going to put you through the ringer, but it's just because you guys are really setting the stage for the most important museum in Darien. So this project doesn't fall short on us for how important it is in getting it right. So yes, if you guys, as far as the process goes, if you could come back to us. You could do this digitally. You don't have to wait for another meeting. If you could propose some alternate signs, now that we've kind of talked through and we understand why the sign is the size that it is for it to be legible, we got that. I think the board's going to be okay with that as long as we can see some other alterations of colors. And as well as, I think David Humphrey on our board made a really good point about the sign material you chose there. A PVC sign is very commercial and not very an accurate use here. And there are types of wood. I know David Humphrey could speak to this, Sean Brown could speak to this. So could, all our members about other materials. Paul, you probably know this, other materials that would weather and be sustainable that wouldn't be a PVC material.
Yeah, so again, Elizabeth, we can definitely do that. Again, I'm just thinking from a durability standpoint, if we do, in my opinion, if we go with any kind of red, it should be the exact red as the building, because anything else will look funny. So I'm thinking if we stuck with the material as PVC, but we were able to paint it, no one would know if it's wood or PVC, and then put the letters against it. So we would still get the durability. We'd get the exact color match as the building. And again, you'd have to argue with someone as to what the material was, be it plastic or PVC, but at least it would weather well. And by weather, I mean not warp or shift or check over time.
I think that could be a great compromise. I don't know if any other members, Dave Humphrey, since you initially commented, do you want
to? Yeah, you can, make a rendering of it. I would just also obviously keep in mind, the thickness of the sign and, how it's applied to the building. That all plays into how it's perceived. So I don't know what the, best answer is there, but maybe if you have a spec that's a section through the sign, just so we can see, thickness and how it's secured to the building.
It does say. Sorry, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, plus I was just going to say absolutely, David, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, this is Stephen Keel. Very briefly, the PVC is 1/2 inch thick. I think if you were to do a wooden sign, you're probably talking thicker than that, because it might be 5/4 or something like that, just to be able to maintain some weathering and not warping. So there is some advantage to the PVC. Again, I think if we can look at the colors, maintain the size, look at the colors, and then see how that might be muted, but still be able to be legible with the name. I think that if that's okay with you, if we could proceed with just looking at a variety of colors, we can get a little more information on the way that the PVC is attached. But again, being 1/2 inch thick, it is really a minimal thickness. when you go to wood, it would be quite a bit thicker, I think, just to be able to be sustained with weathering and warping and things like that. And lastly, really, it's just if we could, it would be nice to be able to say that the light is okay being moved. That way, the electrician can actually finish his work as well. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Liz Geiger here. Yeah, let me summarize. The light movement is fine unless I see another board member raise a hand or change anything on that. The light movement is okay. You can proceed with that, but we would love to see some alternate renderings of the sign in different colors. Same shape, same sizing is okay, but different colors applied. And particularly what Paul suggested, if you are going to go with this PV sign, if you guys are insistent about that, maybe the best solution is something that does match the barn so it blends in, and finding a way to mount it that is, how did you put it, Dave Humphrey? I don't know, more authentic.
Yeah, David Humphrey, just to double check, what that L bracket looks like.
Okay.
Okay. Paul and Steve, I think you guys did a really, really nice job on putting this barn together. We saw from the beginning and actually see it come up. You guys did a great job. I know it was a lot of work, so congratulations. We're really happy for you guys and really proud of what you put into our town.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Glad you like it. Thank you, guys.
Great. Okay, so
Thank you.
send your new revisions to Dave Keating, and he will push them out to the board to review, and we'll do it that way from here forward.
That's great. Thank you.
Fantastic. Paul, thank you, guys. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
All right, members, moving right along here. Next up, we have ARB number 11, 2020. This is the Darien Running Company. It's apparently proposed by Megan and Sean Sirfos. Megan or Sean, are you guys on?
I am. This is Megan Sirfos.
Sirfos. Hi, Megan.
Hi.
So I think you kind of heard the routine here, but I'm going to go offline here and have you introduce yourself and what company you represent, and do a quick overview, very quick overview of your proposal, where it's located, and then I'll let the board comment.
Can I just interrupt 1 second? It's David Genovese. I have the presentation on my computer, so it's probably easier if I give the intro and then turn it over to Megan.
All right,
That's
David
okay.
Genovese. Always love to hear David Genovese talk. Great.
Oh God, I don't know about that. Well, anyway, thank you so much. So I'm here on behalf of Penny Glassmeyer. I'm helping Penny with this application, and Megan. I'm trying to actually share my screen, so just hang on 1 sec there. Oh, why is that not working? Hang on. Stop sharing. This is the location that Kirby and Company was in. My screen is freezing up, so I'm a little nervous that I'm losing you. Let me know if you can't hear me. But this is the store on Brook Street that Kirby and Company occupied after Sylvan Learning had been there for many, many years. Kirby Girl decided to close before COVID-19, and we were lucky enough to meet Megan through a Darien resident, Heather Peck, who loved her business. And we are really happy and excited to announce that Megan has signed a lease with us to bring the Darien version of Ridgefield Running to Darien. Megan is a kind of regionally, nationally renowned runner and merchant. She wins like top running store in America every year. And she brought about the race called Run Like a Mother, and does an enormous amount of community work in her business, lots of community runs, community races, and she's going to bring a whole new vitality to the downtown that we're super excited about. Everyone that interacts with Megan and her team loves what they do and the way that they do it. So let me just see if I can pull this screen up now. I wanted to show you quickly, if you can see. Can you see that image of her existing store in Ridgefield?
Yes.
Okay, so that gives you a sense of the branding that Megan created in the context of Ridgefield Running Company. And then I'll turn it over to Megan, and I'll pull up, and then I'll just act as the kind of slideshow guy, the signage proposed for this building. You see that as well now, the signage for Darien Running Company?
Yep, we see it, Dave. Thank you so much.
So with that, Megan, do you want to just give some background to the business, and then quickly we'll just turn to the signage because they've got a lot of items on the agenda.
Sure. First of all, this is Megan Sirfos. I own Ridgefield Running Company and started working with David Genovese and Penny Glassmeyer in January, pre-COVID, to bring Darien Running Company to your community. And I'm really excited about it. You had a sort of iconic running store for 40 years in Runner's Roost, and that went away. And what you'll notice about Darien Running Company is that we're going to be bringing an incredible amount of technology. If you think of this store as sort of like a Warby Parker or an Apple store inside a very historical building that's 70 years old, that's one of the things that I'm really, really excited about. I love the location. I love the community and the coffee shops and Sugar Bowl and Uncle's Deli and that whole thing. We're very excited to be part of that community and bring runners in, have shop runs and that sort of thing. To speak just quickly about the branding, really Ridgefield Running Company and Darien Running Company are based on what you see in the lower bottom part of that, which is a Celtic running man. And that is what we call a triskelion. And it is basically forward motion or forward together, in that you're always moving forward. And so the branding with Darien and Ridgefield Running Company are going to be very much the same, with that logo sort of being the theme. We're doing a lot of call out on that. Most of our branding is just the triskelion, which is the sort of unifier between the two stores. I couldn't bring Ridgefield Running Company to Darien. Running stores are very community focused. And so having Darien be part of the name was really, really important to me. This building, as David will probably say, was the only building I was interested in. I think it's a really cool building that was built in the 50s and lends a really great spot for Darien Running Company.
So this is the signage, which we believe complies with all the regulations. Mike Terranova from ABC Sign is also on and can answer any specific questions that you may have. The orange coloring of the logo is the Ridgefield Running Company brand that Megan, developed years ago. The yellow awning that you see here in the corner, we had changed once for Kirby and Company. Kirby had painted the side of the building. We had gotten permission from you years ago or a couple years ago to paint the yellow stripes and to do kind of an Instagram friendly wall there, which really did work. The kids loved it. And there were many, many pictures posted at Kirby Girl alongside. We're going to propose to change the color of the door to blue and the awning to blue. Otherwise, Megan's signage would be her orange color, and the coloring is shown here. And then there is also proposed a blade sign to create some visibility from the post road, because this does sit on Dick Street, and someone passing by the post road won't see the building signage. And so we developed this hanging blade sign with the 3-inch letter. The logo is 12 inches, but otherwise we believe this complies with all the requirements.
Okay.
And that's really it.
That's great. Great. Thank you guys both so much. All right, we're going to run down the list and get some comments here. Starting with Allison Hughes.
Looks good to me.
Thanks, Allison. David Humphreys next, and then Sean Brown.
David Humphrey, yep, looks good to me. Nice presentation.
Sean Brown, please, and then Marion.
Sean Brown. My only comment is, if in the glass door where you have the white lettering, it's hard to see the number for the street above. Should that be the same color?
This is Megan. Yeah, this is Megan Sirfoss. I actually will speak to that a little bit. This door, as of today, actually, that transom above it is gone. So it's going to be solid. So there won't be that number there. I would love to put 14 somewhere, but I'm not sure if it's totally necessary if we have the big sign out front.
Where on the big sign, this is Sean again, where on the big sign out front are you planning to put the number?
Oh, no, I'm not. I was just saying that the Darien Running Company, it would be obvious. I mean, we can put 14 on the door if that's permissible. But right now there isn't any plan because that transom up above is no more.
I would recommend, this is Sean again, I would recommend you definitely put the number on the door.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Thanks, Sean. Next up is Marion, then Leslie.
I think it's fine.
Does Marion Castell, right?
Marion Castell, I think it's fine.
Thank you, Marion. Leslie, then Sherry.
Leslie McCauley, it looks great. Can't wait.
Megan, I think Leslie's a big runner, so you're probably going to see her among the first customers.
Great. I hope to see you all there. This is
Have
Megan.
you been, Leslie, have you been by any chance to Ridgefield Running?
I've never been, but I now don't have to because it's going to be in Darien.
Absolutely.
True.
Last up, Sherry Green.
I think it looks great. We're glad to have you in town.
Thank you.
All right, this is Liz Geiger. I have one comment for you guys. That is there, from the angle that I'm seeing here that's up on David's screen, the name Darien is, I can't think of the word, is pushed to the right. It's centered to the right versus centered on the piece. I know running is centered, company is pushed left. Is there, from this angle, it looks a little odd. But when you're looking at the sign, maybe straight on when you pass it, does it look like it's the right justification and the left justification on the other sign, they balance well, as opposed to centering Darien and centering company and centering running?
It's actually, that's a good question. I didn't notice that before, but the left panel is different, but I guess you're probably trying to follow the same spacing from the N to the end of the panel and from the C to the end of this panel.
Right. It looks a little odd to me, but I don't know if that's, everyone else likes it. It's just me, Liz Geiger, Chairman, sorry.
Hi, Mike Terranova here from ABC Sign. I presented that where it's right justified and left justified and not doing center because Darien is so much smaller than the other words. So it would actually look lost if it was centered. And I was trying to keep all three names together.
Okay.
Okay.
That works for me if everyone else is great with it. All right. Guys, that was a quick one. I appreciate that. Megan, David, and Kate Perez, I know you're on as well. Thank you guys. Looks like a great presentation, favorable report. We'll get you a letter. Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Have a great evening.
All right, guys, moving on. We are at ARB number 12, 2020. It's Greenfield Cleaners at 364 Boston Post Road here. I should have Kevin Kane on with Hungwell Signs, but I don't see Kevin. So that means we're gonna keep moving on. The next one is Make Modern. Again, this is another one with Kevin Kane, Hungwell Signs. I don't see him here for ARB number 13 as well. So I'm going to shift down to ARB number 14, Love Abundantly Wall Mural. David Genovese, are you and Kate still on the phone? Ready to talk about that? Yeah,
I'm on, and I think we'll be okay. The artist, Brian Casper, will join. You know, since you just jumped to it, I'm hoping we didn't screw him up because we told him it'd be more likely after 8. But let me try to start this, and then hopefully he and Tier will jump on. Kate, could you send them an email just letting them know that we're talking about this?
and excuse me, I'm going to make one comment here. Allison Hughes, one of our board members, did you have something you wanted to add?
Something about the Allison Hughes, about the previous application you mentioned. That sign is already up. Make modern. Make
Which
modern.
one?
Make modern.
Got it. All
Okay.
right. We'll have to discuss that. That's great. Thank you for saying.
It's existing.
Okay.
Okay, bear with me 1 second. I'm just trying to find. Kate, I know you emailed it to me, and I have so many emails lately. Bear with me 1 sec. Here we go.
So this is Liz Geiger here. David and Kate, as you guys are starting. So part of this, I kind of mentioned this before. I know this isn't really I know you're kind of almost doing someone a favor and putting this presentation together, but there is no application part of this presentation, what makes it difficult for the ARB to review. So
were we the bad
forward,
actors?
I'm sorry?
I said we were the bad actors. We didn't get the proper application in.
Yeah, unfortunately. So I know you guys, it's weird saying this to you because you guys are pretty much perfect all the time. So
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, this was a little different, but we won't make that mistake again.
okay.
This is Kate Perez. Sorry for not getting the 2-pager actual application form in. I honestly didn't think about it until this morning. And, I don't think this totally falls within the signage regulations of sizes and all that stuff, but we still should have filled out the first page of applicant and everything else. So I will get that out following this, and apologies for not getting it in before.
No, that's great. But thank you. But you know what we could do though? So Liz Geiger here, what you could do is set up the presentation for us. Give us all the parties that are involved here and the location, so we can kind of have a better context since we don't have that sheet to reference.
Sure. So the idea for this piece of art is to be installed along the wall, the inside wall, where Green and Tonic is, next to Morley, an Authentic Athlete, at 1096 Boston Post Road. So this is a building which we own, which is part of the Corbin District and which would be knocked down as part of that project. Years ago, Penny Glassmeyer actually came to this commission and sought approval to create this mural, which was done by someone who worked at Green and Tonic, but it wasn't like deliberately a Green and Tonic business sign, but it does carry some of the elements of the Green and Tonic logo in it. And so this happened here, years ago, and it's been up. And I think people have kind of enjoyed it over the years, but it's been there for probably now about eight or 9 years. Just some different images of it. I'm going to jump for a second. Some of you may remember this house on the Post Road and I think Outlook Drive, which was knocked down by Fox Hill Builders about maybe 7 or 8 months ago. My sense of time is a little distorted from coronavirus, this weird state we're in. So I apologize if I'm misstating the timetable, but this was a house that was being knocked down, and Brian Casper is an artist who lives in Norwalk. He'll be joining here, I hope, any minute. He's friendly with Tier Hessert, who lives on Nearwater Lane. I think she'd actually bought a piece of art from Brian, and he saw this house being knocked down, and he instigated a conversation with Fox Hill Builders and asked if he could paint a mural on the house before it was knocked down. And he, working with Bob Calvi, did this a few months ago. That house is now.
Hey, David, just so you know, I'm here.
Oh, Brian, you're there?
Yeah, I'm here now. Thanks.
Oh, okay, terrific. So Tier is a young woman in Darien, has a young family, lives on Nearwater Lane. She's been a phenomenal advocate and inspiration for us with the Corbin Project, has shared a lot of great ideas and connected us to a lot of different people in the market. She does a lot of work with the Everwell folks as well, who have the Women's Collective co-working space on Old Kings Highway South. But she was the one who actually had called us and said, is there a place for us to do some cool public art in the context of the Corbin Project, and would it be possible to do something sooner? And she introduced us to Brian. And Brian came up with this idea expressed here, and he's here to talk about it or answer any questions that you may have. And so, we love the idea. We'd love the idea of over time in the Corbin Project, finding a good place to do public art, to do mural art, and to keep things changing. Because if you look at a lot of development that's happening around the country today, for example, Hudson Yards, and again, let's talk kind of pre-COVID-19. David Humphreys, you've probably been down there and seen a lot of places, a lot of mixed use centers like Hudson Yards, or what we propose at the Corbin District, are incorporating interactive art where people can, stand outside the wall or along the wall and interact with it, or take a photo with it. Hudson Yards has a touch wall that you can kind of write and do your own art. I don't think during COVID-19 anybody would want to be doing that, but we love this idea, and we have not yet figured out where we would incorporate public art into the Corbin Project. but we thought this was a good way to start the conversation and maybe conduct a bit of an experiment with Brian and, under Tier's guidance. And so that's why we put this application before you. But it isn't specifically for Green and Tonic. It's not business signage. It's not building signage. And I'll be candid and, forthright around this. We understand that, art is highly subjective. Some might love a piece of art, some may not like it or find it offensive. We know this is an area we have to kind of be careful around. But we thought that now, especially in light of what's been going on in this country, in this area over the last few weeks and months, that something fun and exciting and energetic like that, which Brian has created here, could be a nice thing to do for the community.
All right, thanks, David. I appreciate that. Well, I'm gonna open it up and let's just go from there. First up, I'm gonna do Allison and then David Humphrey. Allison?
Okay, Allison Hughes. I'm not opposed to public art, but I think that as a board, we might want to stay away from approving any messages that might be conveyed. Specifically, I for one don't want to become an arbiter of what is the correct message and what is not a correct message. So I would have to say I could not approve of this particular mural. I love the mural that's there now. I love the pictorial mural, excuse me, but I don't like the message. I mean, I like the message that it conveys, but I don't want to get involved with approving what message would be correct to put.
Okay. Thank you, Allison. That's a good start. And David, Genevieve, if you guys want to respond throughout, just you stop me. I'm going to keep moving down the list and kind of give everyone a chance to speak on the ARB side.
Okay.
Next up, we've got David Humphrey and then Sean.
Hi, David Humphrey. Yeah, I'm going to second that comment. It's certainly an important positive message right now, but yeah, for us, being put in the place of, approving this message, and setting a precedent for, what message is a good one versus a not so good one. I'm struggling to kind of get comfortable with us holding that responsibility, so to speak. So it's, it looks good. It's outside of that, it seems a touch big for that wall, but that's less important than kind of the idea of, whether we're the right platform to, give the okay for, what is a message. So I'll kind of continue to think about that as we talk through this. I'm sure there'll be more comments and obviously we'll listen to the feedback. But I'll kind of second that position of, not really being fully comfortable with, being the ones to okay, what is essentially, a message, even though it's a good one.
Thanks, Dave. And by the way, it's Liz Geiger here again. Let me jump in. As the Architectural Review Board, let me make sure I'm very specific and clear about this. Reviewing and approving signage like this, signage, if you want to call it, art like this, it does fall within our purview. And this is something that we not only have the ability to comment on, but should comment on, because we are responsible for the commercial aesthetics of our town. So now, if we take away from this and saying, as a board, we don't think we should be setting the precedent to give any, to let messaging in the sign art and the sign of messaging go forth, that might be our takeaway. But as a board, it is our responsibility to kind of come together and at least give David our take on it. Now, if he does choose to go around us and stuff, that's great. We can figure out where that leads. But I just want to let everyone know and feel comfortable on the board that this is in our purview to comment on this, because it is outside of signage. It still relates to business aesthetics here. All right, let me keep moving on. Sean Brown and then Marion Castell.
I'm going to skip on this one for the moment. Sean Brown.
Oh, Sean. Okay. Marion Castell and then Leslie.
Marion Castell. I love the grace of the signage that's there now. It somehow or other fits. It has a certain movement that works with that building. And it has some forward motion. Somehow or other, this sign doesn't have the grace, and I think the colors should be tempered down a little bit. That's maybe being too conservative, but I do think we have to think very carefully about the message as well. And you can't go against love, and you really can't go against it one way or the other, but it is something I think we have to consider. I would like it, I think that maybe I'm comparing it to what's there, which seems to fit more, and this jumps out and seems to take over the whole, everything. All right, let's finish with that.
Thanks, Marion. Next up, I've got Leslie McAulay and then Sherry Green.
Leslie McCauley, I like it. I think that one of the things I always miss about downtown Darien is seeing kids and people. And if this is going to draw kids there, it raises a sense of community. And it's only going to be there for 12, 18, or 24 months. I liked it, especially after what this town's gone through. I liked
it. Sherry Green.
Hi, it's Sherry Green. I love the idea of using the space for some sort of art. I agree with all the previous comments about whether the sign is exactly what we want to deal with right now. I'm wondering if the artist would be willing to give us a couple of other ideas that we might consider. Because I love the idea of using this for very public art, interactive. I know these are other, David, is that what you're showing?
Yeah, I'm just showing other work of Brian, but he can jump in here too.
Yeah, I guess Liz got here too. Like I was going to ask, is Brian's artwork all founded in messaging, or is it any?
Are there any visual, just like this one? This one that you have up right now, that still is messaging. But could we see, or could he do a couple of other ideas that might work there? That's not making such a strong, lovely statement. I have nothing against the words. I just wonder if we should be doing that.
Hi, Brian Casper, the artist. I might as well chime in here since you're calling on me. Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to consider this. First and foremost,
Brian, I want to thank you for coming and speaking about this. I know it's really hard and probably not fun to have people even talking or critiquing your art anyway. So we appreciate you even engaging in this conversation with us. It's a new one for us, so thank you.
Of course, I mean, absolutely, my pleasure. I mean, that's, you know, I went to art school, went through a lot of critique, so I know how it goes. I will say that first and foremost that my work is based in text. In terms of, you know, changing this up, approaching it with a different message, I'm happy to explore that. I wanted to make one quick comment before I forget about it in regards to the colors. I will point out that this is this digital, which I know can seem very, very garish and very jarring. In person, you know, the colors will not be quite as neon. It's a little tough to communicate that over a computer screen. But, you know, the thing that I really just wanted to say is, you know, I'd implore you to just take a shot on this. If the Post Road house is any indication, I'm okay with my work being temporary. I have no problems with this being up for a month, for 2 weeks. I mean, I think the Post Road house was up for 2 or 3 weeks. And the things that I experienced both in person when I was painting it, as well as what ended up coming back to me online, which is how I met Thierry and how this all even began, was that a lot of your residents were really excited to see something done with that house, something that, you know, people took pictures in front of it, ended up being free marketing for the town of Darien. So, you know, if nothing else, why not take a shot on this wall with a message that is one that I feel is, of course, positive, but well deserved right now, something we all need to be reminded of. And just to, you know, let's give it a shot for 2 weeks. If it ends up falling flat or you guys end up with a ton of complaints, let's paint it white. I mean, that doesn't bother me. But I think something like this is really important. I think to, in a way, sort of just give something to the public that they can see, enjoy, smile, and there's really nothing else to it. So I say, I'm all for it.
Liz Geiger here. I'm going to jump in. Sorry, David, I think you might have something to say here, but that you proposed an interesting idea though, Brian, about maybe even setting a temporary wash state of this, you know, to make maybe if that would make members feel a little more comfortable. I'm not sure if that erases altogether the sake of us setting a precedent of allowing message-based art. We still kind of have to maybe mull that over a little bit more, but in doing that, David Genovese, I've kind of talked to you about this offline, and you've kind of given me a pitch about why you think this is kind of important and what it does for businesses in your project downtown. Maybe if you talked about that a little, it gives us a little better context of the importance of bringing art in.
Well, you know, as I was saying in the beginning, I mean, one of the things that we've seen in really well executed mixed use projects around the country, both in big city projects and small town projects. I sent to Brian and Tier and Kate a few days ago an image from Shaker Heights, Ohio, a project that we've studied there called the Van Aken District, where, and I'll try to email that around, or maybe actually, Kate, could you email me? Did I copy? I think I copied you on that. I know I copied Lisa. Do you have it as well?
I'm sorry, David, I couldn't hear you. What
the Van Aken image that I forwarded to you guys? I think I copied you. I know I copied Lisa.
I'll double check right now. Hold on one second.
Yeah. I can pull that up and just share that with the team here. But you know, people love change. Like when we did the pop-ups, well, they love art first and foremost. They love positive messages, and they love change. And when we did pop-ups, when Frederick's closed a year or so ago, you know, what I found was that the pop-ups caused a lot of buzz and a lot of talk about the new store that was in downtown, and it was only going to be there for a little while. And so you better go check out, you know, the Karen Forbes pop-up, or the guys from Watch Hill, I forget the name of it, Lolo, I think was the name of the pop-up that was there for a little bit. And then the other fellows that had come in with the beachwear. People love transitory, you know, quick moving, changing things. And so in our project, one of the things we really want to give thought to is where to do this. And I think this could be a topic for a great conversation, you know, at a later date with you in the context of the Corbin project. Where could we do something like this? I mean, maybe it's an easel, a permanently installed easel, someplace in the public dining spaces, but a place where we can kind of have ever-changing art. Look, I'll be candid. When Tier called me with the idea, we've thought about it. We hadn't considered where to do it. When Tier called me with the idea, given what we were all going through with, you know, COVID shutdown, I thought, what a great idea. But when Brian went to work and then presented his work, when I opened the email, I was a little scared because I wasn't sure, you know, if it'd be a message that we would be comfortable with putting on the post road. And then I saw, you know, what Brian put forward, Love Abundantly, and I thought, you know, I reacted to it as you did with regard to the color, but I couldn't see a negative in the message by any stretch of my imagination. I understand that there could be other messages that could go up on a wall like this that some could find distasteful, inappropriate, you know, not cohesive to what we're all trying to achieve in downtown Darien. So those are kind of my thoughts, and we love this idea. I think we could absolutely commit to taking it down in a couple of weeks. I mean, I want Brian to kind of weigh in on that too, because it's really his work. It might be our space, but it's his work. And, you know, we could also suggest some other ideas that could follow this one, you know, at some point. So you could, you know, look at other messages that could replace it, or we just go to a blue wall. I really wouldn't, I wouldn't really care, you know, either way, if we went back to a white wall or we went to something totally different. Again, we're just trying to do something nice for the community that people appreciate, and it's not business specific. I'm going to show you this other image just again to stimulate your thinking. Bear with me one moment. I think you'll be able to see this. Can you see that Instagram post?
Yeah.
So that was, you know, this was done in Shaker Heights, Ohio, in the last couple of weeks. And it's, you know, this message that we are stronger together. and you've got the elevated arms, and the kids can kind of post, or can stand in there and take a picture. You know, this is an example of something that was done in Cleveland recently that we thought was kind of fun as well. So I don't know if that's helpful, but you know, these are the kinds of things that get people talking about a place and bring new people to come visit, and it's all, you know, good for the businesses, and I think uplifting for the community.
Does anybody else want to chime in as this kind of marinates on us? Any
Yes,
other thoughts?
I would love to. Sherry Green, you've totally convinced me. I've just done a 180 from having any questions about it to just wanting to jump in and see how the town reacts. And I think it's lovely, positive message. And if it's up for, I would hate for Brian to work that hard and white it out in 6 weeks, but I think we should give it a try.
I circle mine too. I made a turnaround too.
Yeah.
Name,
I'm not turning around because I'm talking about it from a procedural point of view and from a, you know, are we going to have to okay a message that it's going to be posted? Is it practical for us to be doing this? Do you know what I mean?
I guess one of the suggestions that I had for Liz was, you know, maybe we do this as an experiment if you can get comfortable. And maybe what I might ask is that you think about if there are members of the commission, the Architecture Review Board, who'd be interested in, you know, maybe working with us in Tierra. I thought Tierra would have some great ideas on this. You know, working with a small group, we could get some people from outside of the committee to really think about what should the process be and how do you decide? I mean, I don't have the answers. I totally appreciate your concern. If someone put an offensive sign on the other side of the street, you know, I would be bummed out because I would feel like we somehow contributed to the precedent setting that gave rise to that. But I think you ultimately should, I'm not uncomfortable with you retaining approval rights over the artwork. You know, I know that is risky, but you have approval rights over a lot of things. And I know those are uncomfortable conversations if someone's really passionate about something and you're nervous about the message, but we do understand your concern for, you know, kind of keeping the aesthetic up and keeping the message appropriate. You know, I totally get it.
Yeah, David Humphrey here. I'll just chime in. Yeah, I mean, you know, hearing, you know, a little bit more about this, you know, it's obviously, you know, as important a message right now, you know, kind of as it ever has been. You know, talking about putting a sign on the other side of the street, you know, I'm sure this would never happen, but it's, you know, what if somebody came to us and said, I want to put hate abundantly on the other side of the street? I mean, I know it sounds silly, but, you know, we just need to be comfortable with, you know, are we going to, you know, take the position of being the ones to, you know, give that a yes or a no. And in this case, you know, maybe we try it as a test and maybe there's, you know, some other separate set of guidelines or something that, you know, kind of as this becomes probably more popular, you know, what is generally going to be, you know, okayed or not. And, you know, we should all just be comfortable with, you know, we would be the ones to, you know, to come to get that approval. So I'm kind of leaning towards, you know, being okay with it, especially, you know, considering what's going on now. I mean, I know the comments about, oh, it's only temporary, but, you know, it is about setting a precedent, something that, you know, like this, that, you know, is approved, so to speak now. You know, that means that somebody else next week could come in and, you know, want to do something similar and, you know, we would just have to be prepared for that, which is okay. So I know I'm not really providing a definite answer, but I'm, you know, I'm leaning towards being more okay with it. I don't know whether there's somebody's able to speak to what the history is here of, you know, how often these requests come across and, you know, what the decision and the position has been in the past. But, you know, considering what's going on right now, it seems like a little bit of a unique case to, be okay with it. And again, we would have to be prepared for, something that wouldn't be so favorable in the future. And again, potentially some sort of, guidelines for art instead of, building signage and design.
This is Sean Brown. Hey, David, I was looking at the picture from the driveway coming down out of Bank of America. I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if this is approved in its form, would you consider twisting it counterclockwise so that you bring up the bottom of the abundantly above the downward angle on that driveway, on that parapet, that parapet, I call it parapet wall, but the landscape wall there, so that, you're not losing half the word behind the concrete wall.
I think it's really more of a question for Brian, but I take your point, and I think that makes sense. Brian, you're following. So when you're coming down the post road, you won't see, the back of the of abundantly. You won't see ANTLY or NTLY because the ground, that ramp slopes upward. So could you rotate this up so that
Right.
the full word abundantly is kind of visible?
Yeah, happy to change that. I mean, this image is I just grabbed it from Google Street View, so who knows how accurate of a representation it really is. But yeah, I mean, we can certainly change the orientation there. This is what I was just working on my iPad, so happy to do that.
Marianne, did you want to say something?
Well, I said, I like the idea of having it interactive. In other words, places for kids to put photograph next to, like we saw at Shaker Heights. I think that's something to consider in the future to make it a very lively area. But that also brings up the graffiti issue. And I don't know what experience people have had with signage like this, but it is something that we have to consider also. And I don't know the answer to that, but but I think having changeable painting art is a very, very good idea.
I would say in our experience, having owned a bunch of these buildings downtown for 15 or 20 years, we have not really had any graffiti incidents. I can't think of one.
Brian Casper, speaking as an ex-graffiti writer, there's an unwritten law that if there's a mural, you're not supposed to graffiti it because there's a mural on the wall. Blank wall is an indentation, a mural is not.
All right, Liz Geiger here. I don't want to cut anybody off, but I might do a quick summary if there's no other comments at the time. So I think kind of in doing my summary of this, I think everyone's a little tentative. I think what has us most tentative here is the fact that it is a message-based art. So I think it would have been a little more palpable for us this first time around if it didn't have something that, because setting this precedent, not only just of art, but saying art that has a, there's a goal to this. There's a message here that you're working on, Brian, whether it's beautiful or intended or political or not political, that's precedent. Someone needs to go on mute. There's some background noise. But that said, I think the board really believes mostly, I think, in your vision here, David, and I think you've done a great job selling it and the importance of bringing art in here. And then the third aspect of it is it's a temporary thing, right? This is not forever. This is something that we're trying in a building that's going to be knocked down. So if I'm reading the board correctly, I'm thinking that not fully favorable, but it's a favorable report here. And on the basis that it is temporary. And then also with the recommendation that I think that when you're designing your new Bayra project, maybe there is a place less on the public street, but maybe an internal location that you could find where something like this goes on an ongoing basis that would really be welcome. And Tiara might have some insight into that, and Brian as he does this.
That's exactly our goal. And
yeah.
I would add that, I want you to understand that I do appreciate the tentative or the apprehension that you feel around this. We share it. And I would say that we would be totally happy to say that, you know, if this went up and there was, you know, if one person complains, I'd rather not paint over it. But if there's a genuine concern among a number of people, and we'll leave that to your discretion, and you call us and say in 2 weeks, please just take that down, it just caused too much consternation, we would agree to paint over it.
Okay. All right, well, maybe we do that and we set up with the goal here as a, you know, when people approach us, other members can hop in, but with the goal of when people approach us, that it is that, you know, a temporary use of public art, not messaging with is considered fully art, mural art, and with the hopes that how it goes over, it would be part of your long-term downtown Baywater development on the interior somewhere in the.
Exactly.
Anybody else? David Humphrey, were you going to comment there? Sorry.
Yeah, just a quick thing, David Humphrey. If you do try adjusting the curvature of the abundantly lettering, if you could maybe try just scaling it down a touch, and then if you're able to mute the colors a little bit, if you think that would be more realistic of, you know, how it actually comes out, it might help, you know, visualize the final product a bit.
Brian, you'd be okay with that, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. I think we're good here then. Brian, thank you so much for being open to our critique.
My pleasure.
Some of us are even in a place to be critiquing art, but we really appreciate your openness here. I know it is difficult, even though you said you've been through it. And David, Genevieve, and Kate, I think you guys did a wonderful job really presenting to us the positives here, then they outweigh the negatives. So good job
Great.
on the presentation.
And please let us know if you'd like to stimulate that conversation or a small group to talk about this in the future. We would love to do that with you guys. And, you know, I think Tierra and I talked about it, and she would be interested in helping. And I'm sure we could get a couple of other, we could get Pat Atkin, you know, my kindergarten art teacher from Tokenique School. We could get her involved.
This is great. I love it. Okay.
Thank you all so much.
Okay. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Oh, David, one other question.
Oh, sure.
When will we see this up? If this is gonna, how long will it take Brian to do this? So when can we expect?
Did you leave, Brian?
Oh, it should really only take me a day to paint it. So we were pending approval. I think we were hoping to have it by the end of the month.
Brian, was I going to paint the wall white? I think I was going to take care of the canvas for you, right?
That was your job.
That was my job if we got through tonight. And then so we could, with this meeting, I think we could paint the wall white in the next couple of days, and then you could do it at your convenience.
Yeah. So, you know, sort of tentatively penciling in, you know, next weekend, not this coming weekend, but the following, the 23rd or something like that.
Okay, great.
One quick question, Sherry Green. Brian, I don't know what your last name is. I don't know that I got it down correctly. This is for the minutes.
It's Casper with a K and no E, K-A-S-P-R.
P-R, okay, thank you. I would not have gotten that. Thank you.
Not a problem. I actually just wanted to make one last little thing when you guys are talking about setting a precedent for, you know, hateful messages are brought up. There, of course, are a number of federal cases that define very clearly vulgarity and hate speech and all these things, and it'd be very easy for you guys to strike something down if something was to come off as offensive. Just wanted to put that little 2 cents in there.
Brian, if you have any written, you know, if you could direct us to any like written material around that, I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I'll see what I can dig up.
Yeah. We're all learning.
Thank you guys so much. We're going to move on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Last on our agenda item, we have ARB 15-2020, which is Barvita, but I do not see, I don't even know who is representing it. There's no application for it, so I am not able to speak in any way intelligently about this, which is frustrating. I don't see anyone from Barvita on.
No, actually, Mike Terranova. I'm sorry to interrupt, Liz. I'm from ABC Sign, and I am preparing the signage for Barvita, which is set to open up in August. It is a juice bar, an upscale juice bar. And I had a question about the awning. So Dave Keating thought it would be best to present it to everybody because of the awning really doesn't comply with the town code. The owner does want to go ahead with the awning. It is in the rear of the building, so it's not really their storefront signage, but they have a private parking lot in the rear of the building. So it's actually acting as his main entrance because nobody will be entering from the post road, they'll be entering from the parking lot. So it's almost like a welcoming sign. And so Dave and I were thinking that it should be presented to the architectural review just to get some feedback.
Got it, great. So this is at 879, let me back up here, Michael. This is at 879 Boston Post Road, correct? Which is,
Correct.
I think, kind of down from the Kumon, down from it's like where the old Subway used to be, the old Jamba Juice. I don't know if that rings bells with you, but it might for the ARB members.
Yes, it's actually the old Subway store.
Old Subway store, okay. And who is the owner of this, Bar Vita?
Brennan Braca. I believe the family they're all Darien residents.
Okay. And then my other question is, we kind of look at this application as a whole, is I don't see an application, I see pictures presented here. I personally don't remember ever seeing any of this signage. Now, maybe ARB members correct me if this is wrong, but I've never seen the front wall sign. I've never seen this blade sign come through here. So the whole proposal is new to me.
It's not actually, we haven't officially presented it or filled out the forms or the application for ARB. This was just to try to get some feedback on the awning. All of these will be presented at a later date once the ownership finalizes on everything.
Got it. Okay, Michael, thank you so much for providing some context. That's great. So I'm glad that Dave put you on the agenda to look at that. So board members, if you guys could scroll down to page 4, then if you guys see anything jarring in the larger picture that we could comment on now, it might be helpful, I feel like, for Michael. But particularly, let's scroll down to page 3 here on his PDF, and let me know what comments you have. I'll go through one at a time, starting with Allison Hughes and then Dave Humphrey.
Yes, Allison Hughes. I went over there today and looked at the rear of the building, and I actually think it'd be quite nice. I think it'll really dress up the back of the building. It's make it seem less backdoorish. I think it'll be really nice.
Great, thanks, Allison. Dave Humphrey and then Sean.
Sorry, so I just so I'm clear, what part of this didn't kind of meet code? Is it because it's an awning on the rear of the building?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so that would be an exception.
Dave Keating, if you want to jump in, if you have any context for
Dave Keating here. If you're in that back parking lot, there are several other commercial facilities that have awnings that go straight into the door, and you're just covered as you go from the parking lot, either down some steps or on a little walkway to the door. The difference here is that they're going to go across the back of the building and create an awning over the back of the building for aesthetic purposes. It's not really covering any walkway or any usable area or any area that people would walk through. I think that's the difference. Am I correct on that, Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'd have to take a look at it, I guess, to kind of see how it fits. I guess the one comment there would be, again, we're talking about precedent. We would essentially kind of be saying that that's okay. So we'd have to be, prepared for other businesses to want to install a full width awning on the back of their businesses. And I don't know whether that's the right decision or not. Allison, did you want to say something?
Well, that is just that it would not be us making that decision. I think it would have to go to ZBA, wouldn't it? I mean, we say, does it look correct? Does it look appealing? And then ZBA would make that final decision, would they not, about whether it would be allowed?
I'm waiting for Dave Keane.
You're on mute, Dave.
There we go. Now I'm unmuted. Sorry for the delay. Dave Keating. There isn't really a rule that says thou shalt not have an awning across the back of the building. It's an aesthetic choice. Do you create an awning that really is not covering windows and providing shade for them, or covering a walkway or something? So it's a little bit unusual in that sense, but I don't think it needs a variance of a specific regulation from the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, in that case, I mean, I think a photo of the rear of the building would help. I don't think that was provided, just to kind of see it in context of the real, property. But the awning itself, lettering looks okay. The lettering on the front of the building, the 11 inches, that's per code, or are we not looking at that tonight?
I think that this whole application isn't formally submitted, so we're not looking at it. But if there are some comments, I think that we see that are standing out right here now, I think we can make them to help Mike's and who's representing for their application in a future date to be more successful. So if you have something, David Humphrey, to say on the front, please do.
Looks okay to me. The projection of the rear awning, there again, it looks like the area over the door is 36 inches. That's okay per code. The rest of it's 24.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, as long as that's per code and what the other matches what the other awnings are, okay with me.
Thanks, Dave. Next is Sean, and then Marion.
This is Sean speaking, Sean Brown speaking. What color is the awning in the back?
The owner would like to have it black and the lettering white.
So I think over the door would be, as it's drawn, would be very appropriate. I think black down the side would be the wrong choice of colors, and therefore I would not approve the length of the horizontal awning, because I think black is going to fade rapidly, and it's going to be like white. It's going to be dirty all the time. It's something that's that long. I'd rather see it perpendicular and over the door as opposed to the length of the wall. That's my only comment. Otherwise, it looks good.
Sean, would you propose, do you like the style of what they're proposing if they had another color versus the black?
I'm not sure. I mean, because I think, and I looked at, again, this is Sean speaking. When I looked at the front of the building, on the post road, I mean, I think that the black is and the green logo is a very good look. I'm just a little concerned about the horizontal going over towards the vine that's growing up. I think that's gonna be what you're going to see. You will not see the roof of the awning over the door because it's an A-frame apex. You'd only see a very small piece of it from the side if you're coming down that back sidewalk area. Whereas if you're in the parking lot, you're going to see all of that awning. And I think it's going to be, after the first 6, 8, 10 months, it's going to be starting to fade and it's going to be fairly dirty. So I think I'd rather stick to just the awning over the door.
Marion Castell, and then Leslie.
I like it. And I think I am concerned about the fade, and I think maybe another color that wouldn't fade is badly, but I like the fact that it contains the building. It gives a strong horizontal. You've got a bench underneath. You can sit and protect yourself from rain. And if you have some wonderful growing thing there, you have a nice little composition against that wall. Now that's brick, right? It's a red brick. I don't remember.
Yes, correct. It's a red brick.
It's a red brick. And I mean, you need it. I think you need a strong color. I don't know what would fade less than black. Is someone in awning experience could tell us that. But I think I like it across the whole back. It defines what it is, and it has a strong horizontal, and you can sit underneath it, and you can eat a sandwich or whatever, and you have something pretty next to you growing up.
Leslie, and then Sherry. Oh, Leslie, we just lost you. We did that. Right.
Sorry, Leslie McCauley. I agree with Sean Brown. I think that it should look like all the other awnings in the back. I think it's going to look odd with having the stretch of the building covered in an awning.
Well, that's the point.
Yeah.
It wants to be different.
Sherry Green, since I'm not there, it's hard for me to put this in sort of perspective with the other buildings. I like the drawing. I think, aesthetically, it's very, very pleasing. I think Sean and Leslie bring up a good point about it fading. But as I said, I'm not there, so it's hard to put it in perspective.
Okay, Mike, I'm going to try to sum this up for you. It sounds like the board is kind of split on this awning or not. I personally actually think it could really enhance the back of this building. I don't think doing what the other tenants have done is necessarily a model here of how we want to treat the back of this building. It's kind of been overlooked. So the idea of what you're approaching here and what you're proposing might be another way that other tenants should be thinking about this and creating more of a pedestrian entrance. So I think if you want to put together a formal application and can propose what you've done here, come back to us and have your owners kind of speak to the overall aesthetics of the building, what their goal is here as far as usage, pedestrian usage, and also provide us pictures of the back of this building and what it looks like now. I think it would really help support your argument for what you're achieving. Does that make sense, Michael?
Absolutely. I can also provide some photos of other awnings which are black that are on the post road, and they've been up for a couple of years and they have not faded. The material that we use is Sunbrella, which they have a really good coating against the UV rays, which would help against the fading.
Liz Geiger here, Sean. That would be great. To put other examples together would also really help support the application. And then, like I said, give us pictures. I'll call you out. Give us pictures of the whole back of this building, like, so we can see this place in relation to its neighbors. And also, hopefully, you could do some sort of design where we can see the awning in place on how it would look on the current background. Allison?
Allison Hughes. Liz, I think you bring up an excellent point that the other rears of the buildings look like back doors. This is something that's really kind of more special. And also, I think it's very nice as you come down from that upper parking lot, you walk down that hill and you look almost right at this building. And I think for the kind of product that it has, this will be kind of a nice little place too, as Marion said, maybe sit. And if you could bring that up in your presentation, I think that would be important and maybe a point that might sell it a little more.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Michael, Liz Geiger, I'm going to make one other comment. When you do come back, I'm still not super clear on the storefront signage on the front. And I'm not sure if you're actually proposing a plaque sign on there, if you're just painting wood over the door to make it black and what you're doing there. But if you're just painting the wood, I think you're gonna have to put together a stronger presentation around that and what that's gonna look like and how that's gonna be framed out in particular.
That placard is existing.
Right.
The plan is to paint it black,
Okay.
and then to adhere acrylic lettering painted white, which would spell out the Barvita.
Got it. Okay.
So just to give it some dimension, but that placard is existing, and that was there for, I guess, a number of years.
Got it. Okay, that's great. That gives me such context. And then again, if you could propose or show pictures then of what that looks like, so we just have a better idea of what the real scene is, that would be helpful for our putting approval together.
Absolutely.
Liz, I've got a question. Sherry Green. Michael, you mentioned the owner's name. I'm doing this for the minutes. Could you repeat the owner's name?
It's Brennan Braca.
B-R-E-N-N, Brennan, E-N, B-R-A-C-A?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you
All right,
very much.
Michael, Liz Geiger, any other questions,
Thank
or are we good, do you think, to come back with a full application?
Hey, Liz, this is Sean Brown speaking again. I think when they come back, they should have the numbers ready for us for 879, either on the front door, and I might even recommend that they put it on the back door as well.
Great. Did you catch that, Michael?
I did, and I like that as well.
Great. Michael, I really appreciate you listening to all our feedback. I know it was a lot there. Do you want me, I usually send out formal letters, Michael, but in this case, since there's not been an application submitted, I won't do that to you. If it would help though, I can put some of our notes in an email and send them to Dave Keating and have him forward that along. Would that be of help?
Very helpful. Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you, everyone.
One more
Oh, wait,
question.
one other thing. I'm sorry, Michael. One other member raised their hand.
Sorry, you said they wanted to open in August?
I believe so. I believe they're looking to, it might be the end of August. They've had a number of setbacks since the COVID-19. They were supposed to try to open up June, and that didn't happen.
So if you're back with us this time next month, does that give them enough time to order signage and awning for opening, or they're not worried about that for opening?
I should be able to get most of the signage completed. I would only need about 3 weeks to turn around the signs.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. This sounds great. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll send you an email.
Thank
If
you,
you have
everyone.
questions, you can follow up with Dave Keating over email.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Members. Sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you, please. I'm sorry.
This is Dave
okay,
Keating. Yep. Thank you,
yes.
Mike, for joining us. And so we'll get an application in for next month, hopefully, and that way it'll be a formal application for the July agenda. Good.
Awesome. I appreciate that, Dave. Thank you. Fred, I still need to have my screen shared here. Fred, if you're still there. Okay, guys, we are moving. We are moving along. I guess we're skipping on our ARB number 12 and ARB number 14, and number 13 presentations for Make Modern and Greenfield Cleaners. Dave Keating, I think those presentations actually need some discussion. Those are with Kevin Kane. So do you think we'll see him, Dave Keating, at the July meeting?
If you want to, I can try to call him right now, but he was given notice about an invitation to be here, and obviously he's not. So if you just want to give me comments about the two applications, I can get back to them with those comments, and then we can discuss the applications in July. And what Allison mentioned was that one of the signs is already up for the one on 1081 Boston Post Road.
Yeah, members, I don't know if you want to talk about that. Can I see a show of hands if you guys want to all discuss these, even without Kevin Kane here? Have you guys had a chance to look at number 12 and number 13? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, let's try to do a quick overview. Maybe we could review these digitally if there's any changes. For number 12, this is Greenfield Cleaners at 364 Boston Post Road. This is up by, it's the Vaquero building up there by, as you go into Norwalk, where Orange Theory is. Orange Theory is on one part, and this is on the other part. I would assume they are proposing a sign box, just like on their other buildings. This will mirror that exact make and model of all the other sign boxes. And the dimensions will be the same. Everything will be the exact same as Orange Theory. It'll just be in Greenleaf's colors. So if that's the case, does anybody have any comments? I just let you guys talk on your own. No order here.
Can we see how it's, Leslie McCauley, can we see the door in relation to the sign as well? Like a photo of the full elevation?
They didn't provide that.
Okay.
I think probably if you go to Google Street View, you could probably see that elevation and hopefully tell where that ends up on the building. I'll see if I can pull it up.
Yeah. And but
Liz-
again, go ahead, Allison. Please.
Allison Hughes. Dave, remind me, doesn't that building have kind of insets in the brick? So the sign really has to be in that spot?
Allison, if you look carefully, you can see it. There's a porcelain
It extends
brick
longer.
around it on the outside of the frame.
Right.
Hard to see. And it's centered in that.
That's Dave Humphrey's phone. He can show you the whole picture of that building.
You can see where the building number is, so you can tell where the signage ends up, and it looks like it would not be centered over the door. The door is on the right-hand side. So if you kind of count the panes of glass from the right-hand side, the first two panes on the right, the door is below that. So, but it would be centered on the overall storefront for that bay. And there is the brick kind of trim, so to speak, that
We see-
spans the length.
Mhm.
So I think it makes sense. I mean, that's how the Orange Theory sign is. It's centered over the whole section.
Anything else? I mean, I'll jump in. I personally think this one is a good application. I think it's the exact same of what we've been doing with all these other ones. They've been really good at setting up a template on their buildings. It's the exact same sign box we saw up at the Post Road where it intersects with Norotan Avenue across from Papa Joe's. You have Roost there, and you have Johnny's, and you have Danny's Cycle Shop. Those all are the exact same boxes we're looking at here. Same size, same width, same style. It just has a different face on each of them, representing the company logo and colors.
I think it looks fine. I think it looks great. And the numbers are on the building address.
I'm good. I'm good to approve it. This is Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
I'm good to approve it, Marion Castell.
I would approve it also, Allison Hughes.
Sherry Green, I approve it as well.
David Humphrey, approved.
Leslie McCauley approved.
Great, guys. I'm glad we got that through. Okay, next one, Make Modern. This one's a little more complicated. It's a different type of sign. It's already up, and alongside the pin letters, if you'll notice, they're proposing wall art. I don't know if it's logo or wall art that's that would also be part of the signage. So whoever wants to speak first.
Allison Hughes, I did see it. It's up. It does represent. It's very representative of what the business does. I think there are, make it people, whatever you call them. And it's duplicated down below. They have two large posters that in the windows that are the same as those, whatever you want to call them. I don't know what you want to call them.
Right.
It looks well on the building, I have to say. It looks
Are you
good.
talking about the sign itself, the actual company lettering, or the whole thing with the pictures as well?
The whole thing looks good. I don't know if you want to approve it or not, but it looks good.
Allison, what are the It says here 20 by 20 laminated digital print. And how are those just attached to the wall? The poster.
Not obvious to me. I don't know whether it's pin mounted or what, but it
looks fine.
It looks fine. They're bigger than what we would normally allow, I believe, right, Dave?
That's 20 by 20.
Yeah.
Dave Keating, yes, it is bigger than what we would normally allow, but the way the regulations were rewritten and adopted by the Planning and Zoning Commission, it gives the ARB much more flexibility to approve something like this if you think it's appropriate.
Marion Castell. Make Modern says, great, this is sleek and very modern, but there is so much clutter, you know, I think in the windows and all of these other situations that it goes away from what I think of as modern. So if it's saying two things to me, in terms of what, and I don't know about allowing so much window space, that's another issue. You can make it look very, you know, over time, it could be very cluttered.
Reminds me of the pottery place on the post road, the clay, whatever that one is, has so much stuff in the window.
Right.
I think that's the kind of place that Allison Hughes again. I think it's a place where I thought at first it was going to be like modern furniture or something. I don't know. But I think it's where kids come in and make projects, I think.
Yeah, I think it's an arts and crafts kind of place.
I think so, yeah. I'm not sure, but do you know, David?
That's correct. Okay.
But it does bring up the issue we've had again with these huge window areas and how they're allowed to filled, you know, the banks and whatnot that we've had when they make murals as
Sean,
signs.
David, Leslie, what are your thoughts, guys?
Yeah, David Humphrey, the wall decals seem a little on the big side considering they have the same thing in the windows. I mean, this kind of goes to one that we had a while back where, you know, I think you're allowed to paint whatever you want, but, you know, this falls into our jurisdiction because it's an actual sign. So where do you draw that line between, I think if they wanted to paint this, they could just go ahead and do it. But at the same time, since it is coming to us, yeah, I don't know, it seemed a touch big. But even those wall decals are already up, Allison, you said?
That it did not appear temporary to me in any way. I think it's the sign.
Did the scale of it look all right to you?
You know where it is? It's on that corner. It's Allison Hughes again. It's that corner store that used to be the Puritan.
Yes.
It's been a couple of pop-ups.
Yeah.
So it's a wide band with a big white gable above it. So it doesn't look crowded. I mean, and it is already there. So I don't know how much we want to make of it, you know?
Well, that really doesn't mean anything technically here. So Leslie, Sean, what are your takes?
I go back to one of David's comments from it. Oh, this is Sean Brown. I go back to one of David's comments earlier about setting a precedent. And I'm thinking that, you know, if the 20 by 20 is too big, that it should be back down to the size that we would approve. And I think that would eliminate some of the concern from Marion regarding, you know, all the extra artwork in the glass, as that it's not so much, it's so close and adjacent to what's on the mandrel piece above. So I vote for a smaller logos.
Yeah, it should probably fit within whatever the overall square footage of the signage should be per the linear feet of the storefront, right? Maybe it fits, but do they have that in the application?
I'm looking now. They get 27 linear feet. They're allowed. Sorry, the variable square, they get 9 linear square feet, and their sign height is 5.
square feet.
by 98. 5 1/4 by 98. Do you do that math, David Humphrey? 5 1/4 by 98, it has to be less than 9 square feet.
Yeah, they're probably over because those squares, you know, if you do, the squares are at least 2 1/4 square feet each times 2, that's 4.5. So the make modern is going to be more than 4.5 square feet because it's probably, you know, 10 inches by, you know, looks like maybe 8 feet. So it would appear that, you know, if the signage is the 2 20 by 20 squares and the make modern, that would exceed 9 square feet.
Yeah, it does exceed it.
I personally think, and I agree with Marion, I think this is what you're trying to say. If they eliminated those two signs up there, then it would be a very clean, modern look to it. I think this makes it look kind of kitschy, and maybe that's their point. But if you took those posters off the top, then whatever's going on in the window doesn't seem quite as busy.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think
I'm sorry.
it draws your eye to the wrong spot, right? I mean, it draws your eye to, you know, above where they would hope that you'd be looking, which is in their shop. So it seems a little counterproductive.
I agree. But if they already have them up, what choice do we get? Tell them to
We
take.
have Dave Keating send them a letter. We have Dave Keating send them a letter and say they're over their sign allotment. If they'd like to redo their sign and include the logo within the sign allotment and the sign band, then we can consider it. But as is, they are not getting an exception and they are not approved. That's what we would do.
Marion Castell again. What sort of repercussions do we have when people decide to do this without coming to us?
Well, Marion,
Liz-
I take a bag of pennies and I go over there and I start beating them heavily to take it down.
Good.
Sorry.
Well, no, I'm wondering, we should have something that's consistent. You know, we don't want this idea to kind of keep spreading. Is there any repercussions that have been set in place? I don't remember any. I wondered if Dave remembered any of people that just go ahead and do what they want.
Dave Keating, you can hop in on your process here for alerting them and.
Yep, Dave Keating, we can notify them that they're in violation and work on them to get their signs in compliance. As far as I know, they still don't have a certificate of occupancy for the building.
Okay.
So we can kind of use that as a little bit of a pressure.
Okay.
So, yeah, we can put pressure on them.
Yeah, more work
But
for
it's not going to be the kind of thing where we're going to go to war with somebody.
No, but it's good to discourage them from trying this. And that's more work on your shoulders.
Leslie, do you have any thoughts either way? I didn't hear you speak, so.
Yeah, I agree. If they just take the two 20 by 20s down on either side, sorry, Leslie McCauley, and leave their sign, I think that looks great.
Okay, so let's wrap this up so we can move along. I'll send them just a very informal but formal but nice letter saying like that they've kind of gone over their allotment and basically that they would take those down, and we think they've gotten the same effect by doing the static clings in the windows, and their proposed signage of their business name is approved by the board and looked upon favorably. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, this is Sean. Quick question. Is the linear footage or the square footage of the sign 7 square feet that's permitted?
They get 9 square feet according to the application they filled out. I'm not good with this stuff though.
All right, so I just did the math on the square footage. We're at 400 square inches on the two logos. We're at 314.5 square inches on the make modern. If you take the 5 1/4 by 98, that adds up to 9.12 square feet in total. So I don't know whether you're going to take the make modern as, you know, the 5 1/4 tall by 98, or you're going to make it wider, because I can't tell from this picture if there's a larger sign band where the make modern is, or is it just in the center of that overhead spandrel piece. So Just thought I'd throw that. Not point 0.12 is not worth discussing.
Marion Castell again, what is that hanging down from the ceiling in a little circle? Is that wire for light to
Wire.
come? So we have lighting that we haven't seen. It should be approved.
Okay. All right, maybe I can ask these guys to come back then and actually have Kevin present this time, and I'll give him an idea of where we're leaning on this. And I won't give a favorable or unfavorable report since they weren't here to, since it was controversial and they're not here to speak for themselves, I won't actually give a report. How does that sound?
That's good.
Sounds great.
I'll go measure the lettering in the meantime.
Okay. Yeah. I will say, again, this goes back to like them also setting the logos out away from their sign. It's like they're proposing multiple signs. I don't know. I'm still kind of in conflict on how we treat that. I guess we have liberty to do it, but I would hate to see everyone taking their logos and putting a big logo as well as a sign. That it gets busy in my mind. That's my personal 2 cents.
I agree with that.
Okay, we've got one last thing for the day, and I think it would we can discuss this semi-shortly. It is the last item on our agenda, which is here, I'm pulling it up, which is the guidelines for downtown landscaping. Sorry, give me a second, please. It's the landscaping guidelines for downtown district development. I put this on the agenda because I wanted to bring us kind of refocus us and remind us of where we are with this process. I'm going to do a screen share here. And I'm going to pull up for you guys the commercial guidelines of 2009. Can you guys see my screen?
Can't read it.
No, you can't read it, but you can see it.
Yeah, now it's better.
Better.
Okay.
Pictures. Okay.
This is, let me go up. This is our long worked on approved Town of Darien commercial guidelines for 2009. In this, there was a ton of work put into this. And as part of it, one of the sections covered streetscapes in our downtown development and specifically landscaping. As these new proposals have come to us, these different larger proposals where Genevieve's is doing a large block and then the Vaquero guys are doing large block, you start to see if there's not one cohesive plan here bringing these together, you start to get piecemeal developments along Post Road, particularly with the landscaping. And so what I'm going to have Leslie present this as a special, but she served on both commissions that put the plan together, the landscape plan for our downtown guide. She was on the Darien Tree Commission and as well as the, Leslie, jump in, as well as the revitalization.
I served on it as well, Marion Castell, on this commission.
So I give you these 2 pages. It's pages 10, 11, and 12 on our book that talk about the streetscape, what's important, why we've chosen what's important, the trees that are on that list, and how does it all come together. And I basically, and I'm going to put this over to Leslie to kind of give you a little color and remind us of where we are, but I'm bringing this to mind just so you guys know, when we review landscape plans in this, it's important to remember that we need to keep what people are bringing to us should go back to this guide. So my question to you guys is, are you aware of this guide? Make sure you are familiar with what's on here. And let's just do a quick refresh and make sure you guys agree with the work and the time that went into this and the objectives of this streetscape plan. So with that,
there's one thing, I have it on my computer and I'm sure you do too. I can send it around to everybody, the whole thing.
It's huge.
I think everyone in our ARB should have this to look at.
I think Sherry Green, I think I looked at this probably when it first came out, but I do not have a copy of it, and I would love to have either a paper copy or at least on my computer.
I think we all ought to have it. We ought to be able to refer to it.
Well, I can, in the meantime, I will email this to you, but Leslie, so you guys have a copy, but if you can see my screen, and Leslie, if you can walk me through and just kind of do a nice recap for everyone so they know where we stand on this.
Leslie McCauley. I'm also going to do a little history. So in 2008, the DRI asked me to put together a list of recommended street trees and recommended parking lot trees for downtown Darien. So I did a study between Westport, New Canaan, and Greenwich, and noticed that whoever owned the Gap had 3 Ginkgos, and then Lululemon had 4 Pin Oaks. There was no cohesiveness to these downtowns. So what I came up with was 6 street trees and 19 parking lot trees. The reason there's only 6 street trees is because we have CLNP on the right-hand side of the street who just hacks down the trees, so they have to be shorter trees and pedestrian-friendly. Then the larger trees are in the parking lot. To make it, there was a bit of a controversy back in 2008 to not make downtown look like an arboretum. So that's why there is a list with only a total of 25 trees on it. What's important to note also, which I'm watching as I'm part of this ARB, we're approving planting plans where they don't adhere to the note section in this guideline. So for instance, the Grebes block downtown with 1020, that's all aristocrat pears. So in the note section of this street tree list, it says that no one species shall be planted within 2 tree pits of the same species. So let's say there's a blight of 1 tree, the whole block isn't going to go. It just adds for a little bit more continuity. So I think moving forward, we either what we have to decide is we let everyone, do we let each builder keep status quo and let every builder to pick whatever plants they want, street trees for their properties, which I would say no. 2, amend this existing recommended street tree list and parking lot list, or keep it as it is. I've put a ton of hours into that, and then enforce it. So that's where we are right now.
Great job, Leslie.
I don't know if anyone has any, does anyone have any comments about that?
Well, beyond the landscaping, there's a lot of other things, structural things that we should look at too, maybe.
And what do you mean structural?
Well, the design guidelines cover more than just the wonderful landscaping that Leslie did. They have signage, streets, they have buildings, they have historical aspects. It's all part of that same report, isn't it?
It is. So
yeah, I think the whole report has some interest to everybody.
Right. I mean, it is 11 years old now. So that's to Leslie's point. She's saying, like, are we still on board with this? And so I'm just going to say, I think we should be on board. There's been so much research put into this and why this should be, how these recommendations came into play, that I think that as a board that we need to go back, know that this is our jurisdiction. We are able and should be commenting on things like sidewalks, street grates, trees, detailing on the buildings. So when these plans come through, like Vaquero just came back with the Playhouse, now Baywater came through, and we didn't comment on how they are doing their landscaping, and Leslie caught this. They are not doing it according to our plan, which is thought out and smartly. They shouldn't be placing trees together. They shouldn't be all doing one type of tree. So if you guys are all on board with this, I guess I want your feedback and or your vote to say we still agree with this plan. If so, we'd like to enforce it. And Leslie will kind of be our enforcer in speaking up here because she understands this as far as the landscaping goes in and out.
Well, I remember Sherry Green.
This is Sean. I vote we stay with it.
Yeah, Sherry Green. I remember when Leslie brought up the different plans that they were going to do at the Playhouse, and you said that wasn't part of the plan. And I think people I think we need to enforce it. And I think the plan looks like it's very thoroughly done, and I agree we should enforce it.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, if we all read it, Marion Castell, if we all read it, we can make changes. I mean, it is that old, but it would be worth reading the whole thing.
I would like to approve it. and remind people that it does exist. I think that's part of the problem. Maybe some of the new developers are not aware, I don't know, but, and as long as Leslie feels that it doesn't need any change because of species or problems with a species or whatever, then I don't see any need to change it.
I agree
Leslie,
with,
can you comment to that, Leslie? Like your enforcement of it, or how do you feel?
Yes, I was getting a little concerned when the Playhouse was putting in fastigiate horn beams, which are beautiful, but will not look like anything else in town, or what the Corbin project's going to look like across the street. There becomes no cohesion or hallway aspect to downtown. So I'm all for keeping this and enforcing it.
Okay, so I think I've got a favorable report across from all you guys, or, voting yes. So what I'm gonna do to follow up here is, one, I'm gonna send you guys a copy again of this 2000 guidelines so you have it. Two, I'm gonna follow up separate emails with David Genovese and John Vaccaro. I saw John Vaccaro today and told him that we might have some changes to his landscape plan, that what we approved, we hadn't done our homework properly and didn't approve the trees that are on that list. And he said, that's fine. He's on board with us just to send him that list. And he'll come back to us with a new proposal, or he'll just make the change and do it and make sure it's according to the guidelines. So does that all sound good?
Very
Yes.
good.
that sounds great.
Can I ask one question of Dave Keating? Is there still a tree commission? Leslie McCauley.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question, Roy?
Sorry, Leslie McCauley. Is there still a tree commission? Because they're in the guidelines, it said that the tree commission was going to enforce this, but I think we closed up shop several years ago.
I don't know. I haven't heard any activity regarding the regarding the tree commission. So I don't know of them being active, but I'll look into that. And actually, one of the notes that I made for myself was make sure that the applicants and their design team know about these guidelines in the very early start of the process so that they can incorporate the tree species and the spacing and that kind of thing into their plans rather than waiting for the application to be submitted and then saying, oh, you got it wrong. So if I tell them in advance, here's the answers to the test, they should do better on the test.
Love it, Dave. Good analogy.
Okay.
Okay, so that's great. Leslie, you and I will talk more offline about doing this, but we're going to look to you in these meetings when these landscape plans come up, Leslie, to do a checklist for us and say what's on the guide and what's not.
Yes, and if we could ask them to show photos of the tree pits. We're going to have to do a catalog of tree pits at some point to see what is the adjacent tree pits are filled with, what species at some point.
Got it. Okay. I appreciate it. This is great. Okay, guys. Last item on the agenda is the notes. Can I get an approval or a hands up from everyone if they are approved or not? Leslie, Sherry, Sean, Dave, Marion, Allison, got you all. Okay, great. Approved across the board. Thank you, guys. It's 9:10 p.m. I will officially adjourn this meeting of the special meeting of the Architectural Review Board of June 16th. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night, everyone. Good night.